Okay, so let's talk about where a myocardial infarction happens. So here's the picture of the heart that most of you are familiar with the left-hand side and the right-hand side. But it's not like that, it's like that. So the left-hand side is actually the front, and the right-hand side, well, that's back here. That's the posterior surface. So a myocardial infarct that's called a posterior infarct is going to happen in the right ventricle. It's the right part of the heart. The left ventricle, therefore, I could have an injury to the left front wall, and that would be called an anterior. I could have an injury underneath, down here on the left ventricle, at the very, very bottom of the heart. That's called an inferior infarct. I could have an injury here on the side. That's a posterior, a septal infarct. Or I could have an injury here on the side of my left ventricle, and that would be called a lateral infarct. So if we open that heart up, we can actually turn it back around. We'll just change the axis slightly. You can see that the left side of that heart is a huge chunk of muscle when you compare it with the right side of the heart. So because the left side of the heart is such a large muscle, it's actually going to have a much bigger blood supply. So statistically, if one of those big coronary vessels was going to get blocked, it's more than likely going to be a coronary vessel that goes to the left side. And that's why so many of our myocardial infarctions are left-sided. Lots of blood vessels can get blocked or clogged. So these big coronary vessels here, you can see that they perfuse a number of areas. So we've got a couple of important coronary vessels here. First of all, coming right out of the top of the aorta here, we have a coronary vessel that comes down the left-hand side. So this is my left coronary artery, and on the opposite side, this is my right coronary artery. So you can see my right coronary artery teases right around, and it feeds that right side, that muscle at the right heart. But my left coronary artery, it travels straight down the front, and as it travels down the front, this big left anterior running down the front, descending vessel, it's going to perfuse that whole front wall of the heart, and a tiny little bit of it perfuses the inferior surface, and it even wraps back around up underneath, and some of it perfuses the right side. This big left artery that comes right around the side, it sort of circumflexes the heart. It runs around the side of the left ventricle. That vessel is called the circumflex. So these vessels are generally big enough, the left coronary artery, the left anterior descending, this big circumflex, and of course that right coronary artery, they're big enough for us to get little balloon angiocaths in and be able to open them up if somebody's got a blockage in there. And sometimes we can leave a small cage inside that artery called a stent. Anyway, stop thinking that the left side of your heart's on the left, the right's on the right. It's actually rotated, sort of more like that in your chest. I know this is a super big heart, but I've got a big heart. Hope I helped.